In today's video, I'm doing a $2 meal challenge. I'll try to feed a family of 4 with only $2 worth of food. I like to do these extreme budget challenges because sometimes people are low on funds, maybe they're between paydays, and they just need a meal that's gonna be delicious and also filling. Since I only have $2 and I have 4 people to feed, I need to focus on an ingredient that's going to be filling, and my mind is automatically going to rice. I've made lots of extreme budget meals with rice before, and it's always a great kicking off point for a good meal. And in my head, I already know I can get a 1-pound bag of rice at Walmart for 92 cents, and they also sell it at my local market in the bulk bins for about the same price. So now that I know I'm going to be spending $1 on rice, that only leaves me with $1 to spend for additional ingredients for my meal. So once again, I'm headed to my local market, and the first thing I do is check out the sale items because obviously I'm going to get a higher quantity of food with the sale items. And the first thing I noticed on the sale ad were that they had green peppers for 69 cents a pound and Roma tomatoes at 99 cents a pound. So my mind starts thinking of recipes that I could make with peppers and tomatoes. And I also noticed that they had brown onions, 2 pounds for $1. And they had some small onions, so I thought I could probably add that into the mix and still keep my budget under $1. There were too many people in the store, so I really couldn't film, but here is what I got. And to start out with, here is the 1 pound of rice, and I'm just taking this out of my pantry since I already have it, but I could have just as easily purchased this at the store. And then I tried to get as large of a Roma tomato as I could find, and this came in at 35 cents. I was able to get this small onion for only 17 cents, and there are so many things that we could do with this onion. And then I really had no idea how much these small green peppers were going to cost, so I purchased 3. But the total for all 3 of these were 61 cents, so I'm going to take one of those away, and that's going to allow me to fit into my budget. Total spent is $1.85, so I actually left 15 cents on the table, which is almost enough for the 3rd green pepper. To start out with, I'll make my rice. And I'm only making enough for myself. However, if you're cooking for a family of 4, then you might want to just go ahead and cook the entire 1 pound bag of rice. I love to have leftover rice, so sometimes I'll make this and then I'll just have 1 portion size, and then I'll have the rest in the fridge for my meals for the next couple of days. There are actually a couple of ways that you can make this recipe, but I'm choosing to use the easiest method that I have, and I like to use the rice cooker for my rice because it always comes out perfect, and I know exactly where to add the water line to get the kind of rice that I want. And I think everybody that has a rice cooker knows where that line is for the amount of rice that they normally cook. And then I'm just putting turmeric and some Spanish paprika in here to give it just a little bit of flavor and a beautiful color. And I'll stir this up before I close the lid and cook this. After my rice had been cooking for a few minutes, I was thinking, why didn't I add my peppers to the top of this and steam them? You know, I never use this with my rice cooker, and I thought this would be a great way to get these done. But I wasn't sure if it was going to ruin my rice because I put those in later. When I opened the lid, there was a little bit of water inside the peppers, so I was being very careful when I took them out to make sure that I didn't drop any water into the rice. These cooked so quickly. Honestly, I don't know why I don't use this steamer function more often. I really do like the idea of using this in the hot summer months. You can basically make some stuffed peppers without using an oven at all. You can also boil these if you don't have a steamer. And of course, the traditional way to make these is by baking them. Okay, now let's see if I ruined my rice by opening the lid before it was ready. It looks just like it always does. Yeah, I think it's fine, actually. This looks great. I didn't ruin it at all. All right, so I'm just gonna fluff that up a bit, and then I'll leave the rice and peppers here on the counter to cool while I go to my room and unwind for the day, maybe watch a video, and then I'll come back in the kitchen and put these into the fridge before I go to bed. And then in the morning, I'll finish my recipe. But first, I'm going to give this a taste just to make sure that it's perfect, and it is. It's got a great consistency. It'll be wonderful for frying up in the morning, along with my other ingredients. I was thinking about all of the many times I've made these very extreme budget meals and how many of them included a single Roma tomato. They're so inexpensive and they add so much to a meal, and it kind of got me thinking about what the cost of a tomato is across the United States. Roma tomatoes are great for extreme budget cooking for me, but are they affordable for everyone? Let me know right now what you think the state with the most expensive Roma tomatoes are. Drop it in the comments and I'll give you the answer in just a few minutes. I'll be using Walmart as a price guide because it's easy to price out amongst the different states. So California and Florida are the largest producers of tomatoes, so average price for a Roma tomato at my Walmart is 27 cents. The cheapest I was able to find them were in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, which is actually what I expected because their groceries are always a little bit less there. But in Anchorage, Alaska, they were 42 cents, which was even more expensive than Hawaii, that came in at 31 cents per tomato. And then I was wondering about New York City. Surely a tomato is the most expensive in New York City. The only problem is there are no Walmarts inside New York City. So I had to look to other means to price out tomatoes. I was surprised to find there are a ton of Aldis in New York City. And I was shocked to find that the cost of a Roma tomato in Brooklyn, New York is exactly what it is at my Walmart in Irvine, 27 cents each. And on top of that, I was surprised to find that they can even purchase avocados for $1.19 in Brooklyn, New York. I thought that both of those would be much more expensive there. I love the way a small tomato turns into this big portion when it's diced into small pieces. And for the onion, I'm only going to use half for the amount of rice I'm cooking. But if you're using all of the rice, then go ahead and use all of the onion. You could also use half the onion and make either onion rings or dust them with a little flour and fry them and make some crispy onions to add to the top of the stuffed peppers. I think that would be really good. I'm using a Spanish paprika, but really any kind of paprika will work well in this dish. Just be careful if you're using a hot one, not to overdo it. And now I'm adding in my cold rice, just like you would do if you were making a fried rice. This is actually my favorite method to making meals. I quite frequently do this with leftover rice in the fridge. I'll just pull it out and add some vegetables to the pan, fry those up, and then add in the rice along with some different spices. Sometimes I'll use those hot spice mixes that I shown you on my channel before. Then just add a protein to it and it always turns out so good. You just really can't mess up with rice unless you cook your rice poorly, or maybe you don't rinse your rice so it's has the wrong texture. You know, it's one of the reasons for rinsing rice besides cleaning it is because it would be extremely starchy if you didn't, and it wouldn't have the fluffy texture that people want in rice. You can also cook the rice directly in the pan with the tomatoes and onions. Basically cook the onions and tomatoes first, then add the rinsed rice to the pan and just barely cover it with water. You can always check the rice later. If you need a little more water, add that in. It's still going to turn out great. I just prefer this method myself. Generally, the only time I pan cook my rice is if I'm making such a small amount that it wouldn't work in my rice cooker. So then I just fry it up in a small pan. Another method to get a great texture on rice is to fry it first and then add the water. I tasted this for seasoning and realized I hadn't added any salt to this dish, so I did add some in. And then I added in some garlic salt, which is basically just a combination of two ingredients that I've already added. But for some reason, I don't have a salt shaker anymore, and I do have this garlic salt mix from Trader Joe's that hasn't been getting used up, so I thought I would just add it in here. But of course you can add separately some garlic and then some salt if you'd rather, if you don't have the mix. I think a little cumin would be delicious in here, and I've made a similar mix of this with black beans before. You could really add in any kind of beans here for the protein. Just make sure that they're rinsed well and that you add them in at the very end so that they don't get mushed up. And then I thought I would just see what this would taste like if you added in the green peppers directly into the rice mix. For example, if you just didn't want to mess with making the stuffed peppers, and I thought that tasted really well as well. There's something that I really enjoy about the mixture of green peppers and rice and tomatoes. I just think it's such a winning combination. But anyway, let's get back to stuffing our peppers now. If a person could only afford one pepper, they could always cut it into thick slices like this and then plate this in a bed of rice. And I had one extra pepper, so I decided to go ahead and roast that in my toaster oven just so I could have a comparison to the other peppers. I wasn't sure if I had overcooked my peppers a little too much. You really have so many options with these stuffed peppers. Of course, the classic stuffed peppers have ground beef in them. And this is one of those recipes where a little of the ground beef goes a long way. You could even get 1/3 of a pound at the meat counter if you wanted to add to this, and that would be plenty. In fact, you might even be able to get away with 1/4 of a pound. It's just, you really don't need much at all. You could also add in the burger crumbles here, or if you don't like those, you could add in small morsels of fried tofu or baked tofu that are seasoned well and kind of chewy, and then just mix that in with the rice mixture. I think that's would be a good option here. And then lots of people add some cheese to the top, but I'm not going to be doing that here, and I think it's going to be great just like this. And of course, we're trying to stay to our $2 meal challenge anyway, but I like to give out those options in case people do have additional things in their pantry. And then I just garnished it with a little paprika and pepper, and then I had a tiny amount of the Italian parsley in my fridge, so I kind of garnished it for the photo, but this is what it looks like. And you know, people cut their peppers differently. They cut them lengthwise or in half, and I think I like mine cut in half with the pepper standing up. I don't know, I just think it looks better on the plate that way. I actually don't even remember the last time I made these. It's been that long. And this was so good. Honestly, you could put anything with that rice and it's going to be a winning dinner. The thing with this meal is, because we don't have additional protein, it's not a fully balanced meal. So I'm hoping that you have at least some options to add something else in. However, that being said, it is a filling and tasty meal, and sometimes that's just a win right there. So I wanted to show you this and then give you the options if you want to add to it. I did want to add a protein to this for myself for my lunch at work, so I added some of the Cincinnati chili that I had left over from last week. And oh my gosh, this was like the perfect meal. It reminded me of what it would be like if you would have added in the ground beef to the dish. And it was just so tasty. And I actually sent the same thing for my younger son for him to use up the leftovers. And when I asked him the next day how he liked it, he said it was the best. So I think he really liked it. But you could always add in any kind of rinsed beans here and it would be delicious, like black beans, pinto beans, anything like that. And of course, if you don't have that additional protein to throw in there, it's going to be filling and satisfying just the way it is. That's it, guys. I hope you liked this week's video. Thanks so much for watching and I hope you have a great week. I'll see you Sunday, if not sooner, on my other channel.
Morning has broken, my windows are open. Wanna feel the wind blow through my hair. Which way do I follow? What happens tomorrow? I turn to you and hope you can guide the way. Sometimes I give up, just wanna be on my